Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled People. In today's episode, Entitled Karen wants to use my wheelchair at antique store. Wealthy uncle. DMV entitled man, but I drove an hour and a half to get here. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Entitled Karen wants to use my wheelchair at antique store. Cast, me, myself and I, Nell's old man, though he doesn't speak, Harriet Karen. My husband and I rent a display space in an antique/consignment store for our collective side hustles. I quilt and crochet. My husband sells custom die-cast cars and diorama supplies. Every few weeks we go in and restock our space. This store is very large and can be a bit of a maze, and the store has designated rest stops throughout the aisles. One is across from our space. The store does not provide mobility aids for customers, so it is a BYO policy if you need a walker or wheelchair. I'm a wheelchair user as I'm paralyzed from an L2SCI. My husband and I were at the store restocking the space. My husband had just left to take one of our totes out to our van, leaving me in our space sorting through my tote that the baby sets I make. When I hear someone huffing behind me, I didn't really pay too much attention to it, thinking that someone might have been taking a break at the rest stop. I was just finishing laying out my sets on the table in our space when the person at the rest stop decided to talk to me. Do you know if the store has wheelchairs for people to use? I look up from my task and see an elderly couple across from our space. The old man is standing next to the bench, looking kinda annoyed, while the woman has flopped on the bench in an I can't take another step kinda way. I honestly was concerned that she might have been having a medical issue as she was rather plump. Are you okay? I ask, about to tell her or her partner to use the phone above the bench to reach the staff desk for help. This store is 2% Dollar King big. Harriet exclaims. I can't walk anymore. Me, the store has a chair for medevac use. One of the employees could bring it to you if you need help leaving. Harriet, but we're not done shopping. Me, I don't think they have wheelchairs to borrow. They have had issues with rowdy kids riding mobility scooters, so they do not provide them. But if you use the phone above you, you can ask a staff member. Just dial 1 and it will connect you to the staff desk. There is a sign next to the said phone that states this. Harriet seems to be thinking about her options, so I go about my work. Nels wanders down the aisle, possibly looking for an escape route. Harriet, what about the wheelchair you're sitting in? Me, this is my personal wheelchair, it doesn't belong to the store. Harriet, can I borrow it? Me, what? Surely she's not asking to take my chair to go shopping. Harriet, I want to use the wheelchair. You're young enough that you could stand to walk for a bit. I'll bring it back. Me, ma'am, I cannot stand at all. I've been a paraplegic since I was 12. This wheelchair is not store issued. It's my personal property that cost a lot of money. If you call the staff, maybe they can let you use the medical chair, or maybe they know of one someone has in their space that you can buy. But I will not give you my chair and I cannot help you. At this point, I have rolled out of our space. I decided to head towards the vendor door and just leave. Rumor has it Harriet is still sitting on the bench waiting for someone to give her a wheelchair. She actually had the nerve to tell someone in a wheelchair to stand up and give it to her. Seriously. I understand that not everyone in a wheelchair can't stand up. My mom uses one most of the time due to issues with her back and walking, but she can stand up. But why would you assume they could and demand it for yourself because you're old and fat? The only proper way to do that is with a flourish and a loud, I command thee in the name of the Lord, get up and walk. Wow, the audacity of some people. Ugh, saw this all the time when I worked at a supermarket. The amount of customers who just thought they could yell at younger and or thinner people using the few drivable carts we had because they don't look like they need it, Wish I could have responded with what I was thinking and know it wouldn't cost me my job. For some reason, in my head, I replace mobility aids as the body part they are functioning as. Wheelchair, can I borrow you legs? Guide dog, can I pet your eyes? Service dog, can I pet your medical alert system? That's a really good way to think about it though, kinda smart way to present it to children as well so they don't grow up thinking they have the right to ask for those things like this woman did. This makes sense. There is nothing worse than someone leaning on my wheelchair. It honestly feels like they are leaning on my shoulder, not allowing me to move. Insanity and entitlement are close relatives. Not insane necessarily, but certainly extremely confident of her assumptions plus a lack of empathy. Definitely a huge sense of entitlement though. While Harriet can walk, she just doesn't want to. So obviously everyone else using a wheelchair is in the exact same situation. OP way too nice. I would have said WTF is wrong with you? Do you think I like using a wheelchair? I probably would just have laughed and rolled away. OP really is incredibly polite. Oh, wow, that woman has brass cojones for demanding such a thing. I guess the thought process is you're using a wheelchair, but you're young, so obviously you don't really need it. Does that sound about right? SMDH. Wealthy uncle. So I have just recently had a 20-year friendship come to an end. I've put up with a lot over the years, and you'll see why. So my now ex-friend, let's call her Kayla, early 40s female. Over the years, despite living in different areas, it was always a case of she had to pick the restaurant, usually the same one, and I had to travel to see her. She's only worked part-time, has never married or partnered up, and she always had bad luck. 5 years ago she was gifted a large sum of money by her uncle and told she could use it to buy a house or apartment outright. She chose one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in our city and bought an apartment. Her sister Stephanie, mid-40s, got the same deal and has only recently taken up his offer. Difference is she's married with 3 kids and they've decided to buy a vacation home in a wealthy resort town. Kayla has always resented Stephanie and told me things over the years, accusing Stephanie of some horrible things. Obviously I don't know everything, but to me the story is not consistent. So Kayla rang me to moan about how Stephanie had got a better deal and how the uncle should only be giving her gifts. I told her how lucky she was and said, "You know what, Kayla, like the vast majority of people, my partner and I have a mortgage, and you should be incredibly grateful this man gifted you $1 million to buy a house, since most people don't get that opportunity." Cue the barrage of abuse and protests of "she is grateful apparently, doesn't seem like it to me, and now I'm apparently the worst person in the world for not seeing her point of view." I was then defriended and blocked on all social media. Good luck, Kayla. Considering other people have also grown tired of you over the years, I suspect you'll run out of people to complain to pretty quickly. This is a poignant tale. A good friend tells us what we need to hear, not what we want to hear. You were a good friend to her and told her what she needed to hear. You gave her the wake-up call she so desperately needed, but she has a lifetime of investment in her own misguided sense of entitlement and jealousy, and she just couldn't let you in. You mirrored back to her your goodness, your honesty, and your light, and that light was just too bright for her to bear, and it shone on her darkness, and so, you had to go. It's a familiar tale. I'm not sad you've lost her. I'm actually surprised that you hung around for so long. You were the agent of change, but the lady was not for turning. Her new narrative will be emboldened now, and she will go on to be even more miserable and resentful than she was before. You, however, can go forward knowing that you only ever did your best. Be grateful she has done this. In doing so, she has set you free from her influence, and that, in my opinion, can only be a good thing. My sister has a friend who was gifted money from her parents to buy a house. They thought they could give her $350K and she found a house she liked, but when they looked at their finances, they realized they could actually only afford $310K, and this woman cried to my sister about it. My sister suggested she get a $40K mortgage, but apparently she didn't want a mortgage. Some people have no shame. You told your friend what she needed to hear, and it can't be helped that she's too fragile to take any kind of criticism. Some people just go through life as perpetual victims, despite being handed chance after chance. She's been handed a life-changing opportunity and is still complaining because she can't stop her own jealousy. People like this make dumb choices despite having all the resources to make informed choices, and then they complain about how unfair life is when the consequences of their actions come back at them. In this case, she didn't even have any consequences. She was just envious of her sister's choice, which she could have easily made herself. She created her own consequences by pouting about it, then lashed out at you when you had the nerve to kindly point this out to her. What you said was a lot nicer than what most people would say, and she couldn't even handle that. You did what you needed to do as a friend, and if she can't accept a mild reality check like this, that's on her. 2 decades you'll never get back, but plenty more to come without all of that dead weight. Congratulations! Live your best life, whilst Kayla may weep and moan about the trouble of being rich. She might be nice when she actually grows up. Congrats on letting the trash take itself out. Doesn't sound like she was ever a friend, more like an annoying acquaintance that you tolerated way too long. DMV entitled man, but I drove an hour and a half to get here. Okay. So I live in a state that has had a rapid population growth in the last 10 years, particularly during COVID. Check my username. I needed to get a title transferred for a car, and I didn't want to pay a notary, so I brought it in to sign. I checked the local government website for hours and it had a notice saying that they have limited hours and amount of customers due to short staffing. This is the new norm here. Government offices, social services, police force, etc. are not staffed and equipped to handle the enormous influx of inhabitants. So, I went in on the 3rd about 1:00. The take a number machine had a sign saying that if it was empty, they were not taking any more customers to ensure they would be done by 5 o'clock. Point taken. Today, the 5th, I arrive at the DMV at 11 o'clock, they open at 10 o'clock, and I pull number 54. Now serving number 11. I pop in my earbuds, hit play on my Audible and start playing a game. I'm set for the long haul, with snacks and a drink. About 12:30, now serving number 20, I hear loud talking and pop my earbud out. There is a little man, I'm being stereotypical here, yelling that he would give the person who was next in line $20 for their number. Audible pause. I scanned the fellow waiting customers. The numbers ended at 60, I counted. This dude was SOL. He started yelling that the DMV workers wouldn't answer a simple 5-minute question without the number. I cleared my throat, but it was unneeded. A late 20-ish guy yelled at him to shut up and sit down. He said, "We are all here waiting for a 5-minute question. Quit being entitled and shut up or leave." Entitled little man started yelling at him for bullying him, and he drove 1.5 hours to get here and wait another 2 hours for a 5-minute question. Immediately about 5 other people spoke up and said they had been waiting. Why couldn't he wait like the rest of us? He kept yelling about being bullied, until a nice lady came and escorted him out. I shot the 20-ish guy a thumbs up and a smile. A bit later, the lady came back and introduced herself as the county treasurer. She thanked us for being patient and said they had been working hard to find new employees. Several of us thanked her and said they were aware of the situation because they checked online. So, no little man, you weren't being bullied, you were bothered by being treated the same as the rest of us. And for you state peeps, you know that it takes an hour and a half to get to any county seat from another in the state. This little man should just go home. And, my number was called at 3:00, about 15 people bailed on their numbers. I didn't want to pay a notary. FYI, if your bank has physical branches, then they'll usually have a notary on staff who will notarize account holders' documents for free. Check your bank's website and check what services each branch offers. If they have a notary on staff, the website will tell you. I bank at US Bank and have gotten stuff notarized for free, including title transfers. My local credit union provides this service for members, also. If not, check your local library as well. I used to live in the USA and always was shocked at the need to visit the DMV. In the UK, 3 of the 4 countries, 95% of the UK, are served by one DMV office in Wales. I have never set foot in it. We do everything online, old days, post office, or by mail. You spent 4 hours to avoid spending $10.00 for a notary? And to get special plates in hand so I wouldn't need to get a paper 30-day tag. Our local library, US, has notaries. It is a $5 fee, but we have someone around most of the time, including many evenings we're open. I hope things clear up for you soon. My province, not in the States, opened up sooner than the rest of my country, and people couldn't get back to work fast enough. They still wanted to work from home if they could, cause they hated the commute. I took the opportunity to retire, but it was sure nice that things opened quickly for my area. The DMVs in various US states were notorious for long lines and being understaffed even before COVID. We have the same problem. So many people have moved to my state since COVID that you have to make an appointment at the DMV literally weeks to months in advance depending on what you need. I had to wait 2 months and drove 45 minutes to a different town, then waited in line for 2 hours to change my name on my license after getting married. Madness. Yep. 2 months and a 2-hour drive to get mine renewed. Mine is up next year. I should an appointment now. In New Zealand, vehicle registration is handled by the post office, so you have about a 5-minute wait if there's a queue. The horrors of the DMV feels like another problem that only happens in America. Man, I love Washington State. Need a notary? Go to a bank. DMV? Go to one of the many contracted licensing offices. Some are just driver's licensing, some are just auto licensing, and some are both. The longest I've ever waited was 20 minutes. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.